Welcome to another edition of Play It Through, and this time around it's Top Gun, brought to us by Konami. Now, of course, this is a licensed game, so with it, of course, you would expect, well, a mixed bag. Some of these licensed games from the 80s used to be good, some were bad. Now, this one falls, well, in my opinion, right in the middle. It has some stuff that would make it a decent game, but it also has some stuff that, well, makes the game almost unplayable for a lot of people. So here we go, let's get going with Top Gun. Now this is the first mission, which is training for the next mission. Kind of stupid to have it instead of just having an actual training like level or whatever, but we'll just take it for what it's worth. It's basically just going to be flying around shooting some enemies and then learning how to land the plane. And that's where the trouble begins. There's two things in this game that make it really almost unplayable for a lot of people, and they will give up on this game right after the second level. And that is the refueling sequence, which we do not have to deal with one, thankfully, in the first level, and the landing sequence. And I think over the years they've been completely bashed enough by a lot of people. So yeah, they stink. We know they stink, but it really comes down to just figuring out what you need to do in order to get past them, because in the end they really aren't as horrible as they've been made out to be by a lot of reviewers of video games from over the years. Now, I didn't spend a whole lot of time just doing a little bit of an intro and jumped right into the gameplay. As you see, it really starts the flight simulation genre with, this game, and I'm sure of games before it, but as a child, this was really the first flight sim game that I would even try to play because, hey, it was fun to play Top Gun. Being a plane shooting other planes, it's fun. And, it's really just a basic thing. You have some gauges, and you have radar, and, some other things going on your bottom screen, which the only two things I really ever pay attention to be honest, are the radar and the missile remain, how much missiles I have left, so I know, how many more I can use. And for the normal planes, it only takes one missile to take out any of the opposing vehicles. So you may question, why would you want to select any of the other missiles? Wouldn't you want the missiles with the most amount at the beginning of each mission? The thing is, on the first mission it doesn't matter. Pick whatever missiles you like. You want probably the most, because you're only going to be fighting the basic enemy. Thing is, you actually have boss battles in this game at the end of each of the other levels, and you really need the stronger missiles to take care of them. So I'd say usually go ahead and select either the medium missiles or the best missiles in the game in order to deal with those boss battles. Now, with the actual controls, moving left and right is actually pretty easy. You can see on the little gauge when you move left and right, the plane tilts around and stuff. And you can see where enemies are coming from using your radar. Of course, the most important part of the radar is being able to see what the crap is coming from behind you, because you can get shot from behind and end up taking damage. Your health meter is located right below your radar, and sometimes I'll end up just dying and taking all my shots because I really didn't even notice that I was even being hit. Sometimes you'll get hit, and since the sound, it really isn't distinctive of sometimes you actually taking damage. So, you gotta pay attention to it to make sure, oh wait, did I actually take damage or not yet? Now this is the first time really you've seen the danger locked on meter from behind you, where basically a plane's locked on and they're about to take you out. And I always find going right or left real quick, and then immediately before, not holding the button in for too long, but then immediately switching to the opposite direction, usually is good enough to get the planes off of you from behind, and they'll just jet in front of you and then you can take them out. Oh man, here we go with the first landing sequence. The good news is if I die, I just lose a life and we continue on. But the thing is, it's best to master it at the beginning. The thing is, they do tell you the controls and what you need to be doing at all times. Basically, you want to try to end up lining yourself up, first slowing down to a good amount of speed, but not too slow so that you're completely descending and losing all altitude. Anytime there's no direction on your radar meter, that means you're actually doing what you're supposed to be, but usually it doesn't last very long. So right now I gotta get my altitude up, so I gotta actually have to speed up in order to get my altitude up. And there we go. See, that's, make sure that I'm up enough. Gotta make sure you have enough speed going in, make sure you have enough altitude going in order to, as it keeps telling me to go up, and I'm trying. There we go. Finally got it up there. Okay, let's speed up again. Let's speed up. Gotta make sure that I'm going fast enough, and okay, there we go. Plane lands. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's really not the worst thing in video game history, but I can definitely see why it has the reputation that it has. I mean, as a child, it was almost, you know, I could land the plane actually as a kid, but I could never get the refueling part, which is going to be taking place in the second level. Now I'm going to go ahead and just for the heck of it, I'm going to go ahead and select the lowest missiles just to have the most of them. I can defeat the boss at the end of this level using these missiles. But if you want an easier time, the easiest time possible, go ahead and select the overall best missiles, which end up only having, you know, 10 overall quantity of the missiles. So it's a real big pain to deal with. And here we go. Now you can see the level is a little bit different. We actually are on more of the ocean-based thing than the actually just pure clouds, which I guess is a little bit more interesting. Overall, the game is a little bit boring to look at, but you know, it really comes down to the feel and whether or not you can really get into the flight sim genre, or what they're attempting to do with a flight sim genre. Because of course in those games when you're in an airplane, you're just in a giant airplane. Once you get all the way up, you're just looking at clouds below you, because that's where you're at. You're above the clouds. You know, only for that brief period of time of takeoff are you really, you know, seeing the land and all around you. So that's really, of course, what they're trying to go for in the game. So that's why at least the first level especially is just nothing but clouds, and on this one we're just over the ocean. Other than the ships that are shooting the crap out of me from the bottom, what else is really going to be going on? You know, it's just going to be basic water. Now, of course, they could have done a better job, but hey, this is the 8-bit era here, so you're not going to really expect some graphical powerhouse, no matter, you know, how, you know, limited the game's gameplay may be. So overall, the game can get a little bit boring to look at. I'm sure I'll be drifting in and out of during the commentary of the video, just because really, you know what, it overall ends up being a pretty boring experience. Now, they did fix this with the second game, but for this game, you know, you have some periods of time where there's just nothing going on screen. You're just kind of waiting for the next enemies to show up, which can be a real boring, real pain in the butt. But as long as there's enemies and you're, you know, duking it out with all the planes and the enemy boats on the grounds, and then later on in the game, enemy tanks, that part's exciting to play, but it's really, I'm sure, you know, not really exciting to watch. I mean, this is probably why this game really isn't that popular amongst speedrunners, because you really can't speed it up any. Plus, the game's extremely bland just to look at, which isn't necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. You know, obviously, it just kind of is what it is. Just staring at blue screen, a top screen that's, you know, half the screen is slightly lighter blue than the bottom screen. Being the sky and being the water, being the ocean. So yeah, I continue on shooting my missiles at the planes in front of me, as well as the boats in the water below me, trying to avoid not getting shot anymore, because I only have one more shot I really can take before I end up being killed. But hopefully we don't have too much longer before we can actually get to the refueling sequence, which is really going to mark a little bit more than halfway through this mission. And that's the other thing. It doesn't have many missions in the game. You only have a couple missions, but the thing is, they're pretty long. And the whole thing of having to refuel, which is what we're about to enter, the wonderful, infamous refueling sequence, because of things like that, you know, it ends up getting a little bit boring and starts to drag even more. Like I said, they speeded it up in the second game by making it's only 3 missions. They're a little bit shorter, but there's a lot more action to deal with, and they eliminated this atrocious abomination of all NES controls. I really have always found this one a lot harder. I mean, it's basically the same thing as the landing sequence, don't get me wrong. You know, you wouldn't think it's much more challenging, but for me, as a kid, this one was definitely a lot more challenging to deal with than just landing the plane. You gotta line it up just right, get it close enough, and if you get it correct, it will lock on to your plane. Come on, you know, I'm trying to get it on there. Gotta get it on the X here. There we go. Got it on the X. That's your goal. You don't want it too far behind your plane. You don't want it in front of your plane. You want it directly on the X marks the spot on top of the plane where you want to put the refueling gauge. And the worst part about it in this game, and many people have touched on it, if you screw up and somehow can't get the thing to connect, the plane just up and leaves you. And once it leaves you, you continue on the level, and then you just end up dying because you ran out of fuel, which I think is probably a very, very poor choice of gameplay by the developers, because how many people, you know, when playing this game got to that part, couldn't get the refueling sequence done, and ended up dying just where you're like, okay, screw this, I'm turning this game off and I'm not playing it again. I mean, at least that's what I would expect a lot of people to do. I know I would keep coming back to this game because back then you know I didn't get a new game every week, so I had to stick with certain games. But this one didn't last too long on my pile of replaying games. I would play this for a little bit, fail at the refueling sequence, and then go ahead and put in like a Mega Man or a Ninja Gaiden or something, like a game that was much more enjoyable to deal with, because this ended up not being very fun for a child. Now as far as this level, continuing this level, I really would give a strategy, but there really is no strategy. Dodge the enemy fire. I suggest firing missiles if you have a lot of the missiles, firing them at the little ships below, and shooting the planes with your main gun. Just keep repeating and repeating and repeating until eventually you'll get to the end and actually get to the boss battle. But before getting to the boss battle, it's just a very long road to go ahead and work your way to there. And the music's not very loud, and since the playing sounds kind of just completely drown out any other sounds going on, even that ends up being pretty boring to listen to and gets actually pretty annoying after just a little bit of time. Another thing they actually did fix later on with the sequel, they actually made the music a little bit louder and better overall quality, so it was a little bit more fun to listen to. So even while you're just kind of dead zones and nothing really going on, you could at least, you know, listen to the good music. Okay, here we go with the actual boss battle, and all you need to do is keep firing missiles at it, and eventually it'll die. Just dodge the other crap shooting at you, fire the missiles when possible, aiming them when you can, and you can see the health meter of it in the upper right corner. You can see though I'm only doing a little bit of damage with my missiles, that's why I suggest using the better missiles, but I went ahead and just used these missiles. The thing is, if you get too close to it and haven't killed it yet, you end up you just kind of make a U-turn. You go all the way back to the beginning of where the battle started, which would be fine, except for the fact the enemy, the boss, regains all its health. Your same missiles, you don't gain your missiles back, but the enemy completely re-heals itself. As we are now at the great landing sequence once again. But I mean seriously, I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me why the boss would just go ahead and regain all its health. I mean, I didn't really leave the room. I didn't fail the mission. I just got too close. I mean, it would be. I mean, think about it, like if like Star Fox, for example. If you got too close to the enemy, to the boss, and you have to turn around or whatever because the boss passed you, or you went past the boss or whatever. I really like it every time you had to turn around, the enemy regained its health fully. Now, granted, for the most part in Star Fox games, if you press the button fast enough, there should be no reason to go past them, especially when you mastered Star Fox. But still, it would be definitely an annoyance every couple of seconds if you didn't lock onto the enemy. You stopped locking on for just a brief second, and all of a sudden it would have regained all its health. I mean, that would just it would make the game terrible, which is one of the other reasons that this game isn't very good. Which is something that I don't think a whole lot of people actually talk about too much. And the reason why I think they really don't talk about it too much is because most people don't get past the freaking fueling sequence. And since they really don't get past the fueling sequence, you can't really complain about something unless you've actually seen it. And that's definitely another one of the fatal flaws about Top Gun, is that whole boss energy respawning thing. And I really don't mean to rant too much about it, it's just the fact there really isn't too much else to talk about in this game, and during the playthrough of it. Like I said, I'm only completing it, number one, because it actually is a pretty difficult game to deal with those refueling sequences and everything, and some of the later bosses really aren't that challenging, but you gotta, speed through them and dealing with all the dodging of the enemies and such. But, so that's good, and it's a licensed game for my whole summer blockbuster licensed movie month I've been doing with these playthroughs. But even with that, this game is still pretty boring, so I just wanted to say, yeah, I'm only playing the game because it's actually a challenge. That's really the only reason I decided to play the game, and to listen to the great 8-bit version of the Top Gun theme. I love movie music. I have tons of movie soundtracks, just like I have tons of video game soundtracks. I always enjoy listening to them just as much as I enjoy listening to my video game music, and I've always said that the Top Gun theme is one of my all-time favorite theme songs for a movie. That, and it's because it really is a different genre. It's just, an electric guitar and all for the most part, going throughout most, the big chorus part of the song and everything. Which is a lot different, of course, than the compositions from, big orchestras or anything. They went with something different, and it ends up paying off greatly. It's just always will be a memorable song for me. I always, no matter what MP3 CD I used to make or now on my MP3 player, definitely going to have the Top Gun theme. Doesn't really matter. It's just one of the all-time greatest movie themes of all time. I mean, not to say that other movie themes aren't great, but it's one of the best, let's say, non-orchestra movie themes of all time. So that can just, get rid of anything John Williams or Hans Zimmerman ever have done, because they use mainly orchestras for all their music, and they make absolutely amazing movie music. Which I'm really glad the video game industry really has, because of the advancements in technology, have been able to step up and improve and go to full-blown orchestras now for almost every video game, having a full orchestra to be able to do its soundtracks. And I think slowly but surely people are, maybe even some people that may not even play games can at least recognize the quality of work that goes into the music in each of the video games now. Just another one of those things. And like I said, just something to talk about, because watching the brown of this level, thankfully it's a different, at least every level's different. This one being a brown dirt color, which is fun to watch, I guess, or look at. But besides, that, what is there really to talk about during the Top Gun game, as we now are entering the refueling sequence again? So, if you didn't get to see it the first time or enjoy it, we get to enjoy it all over again. Awesome, right? So here we go, this plane hovers over, and I gotta get the stupid refueling nozzle, gauge, whatever, onto the actual X thing. If I am too far off, of course, the thing will end up leaving me if I can't actually hook the stupid thing on there. Come on, I can get it. Almost there, come on, just a little bit farther. You want to hook on, for God's sake. I mean, come on, you don't want to just leave me here stranded again, like you have in so many of my other runs of this game. You can hook on. God, come on, just hook on. Oh wow, seriously, you're going to be this much of a pain? Oh my God, down, left, come on, down, speed up, right, come on, there we go, finally, thank you. I swear to God, I was like hovering right over it, but it wouldn't hook on. I mean, thank you for finally doing your damn job and hooking on so I don't die. Thank you, plane, for not killing me. I guess that's overall my thing to say to you, Mr. Giant Plane. And once that plane finally leaves, the camera will go back down, and guess what? We got to see dirt again. Great and wondrous dirt. Brown earth. Or in this case, an awful tan color that's not quite dirt to me. It may be the desert. That's just okay. It's the desert. We'll leave it at that. It's sand. That's good enough. But there's a lot of low-flying clouds. I really don't know how high up in the air I really am. I know I have my altitude here, which to me, I really don't know. Then if I can see the ground still, I must not be that high up. So there's tons of clouds flying at me still. And in this level, though, the only things that really have changed is the boats got replaced by tanks, as well as we do have that third enemy shooting at us from the ground as well. That was really the only thing that changed up. So by not really explaining what happened between levels or anything, I really didn't miss anything. It's just that there's ground tank missile launchers replaced the things that we have been fighting, which were the giant ships on the ocean level. Once you get used to dodging the missiles as they get fired at you, being able to either shoot them, A, shoot them before they get to you, or B, just avoid them altogether, that's when you can really start mastering the game, and you find that, wow, this is actually not that challenging. It just comes down to learning the timing on how to avoid the missiles, and know when you absolutely must hit them, and when it's time to say, screw it, let me move in the opposite direction to get the hell away from these missiles. As you see, my radar is kind of acting up as I have like a couple of blips on it there that were like glitching for a second. And take out this stupid guy in the bottom. Good thing is I think we're almost at the end. There we go. I thought we were at the end almost. So here we go with the second boss battle, which isn't really exciting or anything, but just gotta shoot it from afar here, just like I did the first one. Desert aimlessly for like an extra, for like 6-7 minutes, in order to shoot a base and then immediately somehow be right at the base. I really don't get that. That's kind of a little bit confusing to me, but I guess that's probably just an observation, and I shouldn't really think too much about it. As my plane lands for the third time, I get my bonus points for being able to actually land my planes. Mission accomplished, as my score racks up now. Okay, mission 4. Destroy an enemy space shuttle. Oh, this one should be a heck of a lot of fun. In this one, I'm going to go ahead and use the Wolf missiles, the slightly better missiles, the medium missiles, whatever, in order to be able to take out the space shuttle at the end of the mission a lot easier. So in this one, we've dealt with flying over clouds, we've flown over the ocean, we've flown over dirt. What are we flying over in this one? Well, the sky's slightly darker shade of blue, and we're over clouds once again. Well, at least to start off, we're over clouds again. This level kind of mixes all the levels from the game into one final great battle. So if you've enjoyed the landscapes and the enemies from the previous levels, you'll get to see them all over again. So we now will kind of trek through all them. So it's a very long mission, yeah. It's not very very short, to say the least, in dealing with this mission. I mean, it is the final mission, but this one takes like, a good 6, 7, 8 minutes or so by itself to be able to get all the way through it. Which, especially if you end up dying during it, is ends up being the most annoying part about this whole mission, and why probably a lot of people, even if they finally got to this part, wouldn't even get past this mission. And the worst thing about it is nothing's changed from the previous ones, because basically it's a compilation. Yes, are you ready for this? Are you ready for the most epic Top Gun battle of all time? If I actually can get there. Okay, seriously, you said it was time for the final battle. Why isn't the final battle starting? Oh my god, you've got to be joking that I have to descend for like an hour before I get there. Okay, come on, seriously? Yeah, no wonder everyone hates this game. It's taking me like an extra minute just to freaking get to the enemy. Oh, look! Final enemy coming. Wait for a giant... this isn't a freaking PlayStation 1 game with like an hour-long load time here. Come on, thank you. So here we go with the final boss battle. An enemy space shuttle, which hasn't taken to the air yet. And it's a whole bunch of enemies, of course, trying to defend it. And as you can see, my missiles kick the crap out of it. And you can see its health bar in the upper right corner slowly draining every time I hit it with a missile. Okay, I only need like 2 more should be needed in order to take it out. 1 more now. There we go. And actually, since it's actually a pretty big target, it was actually a pretty easy battle. Even easier than maybe the 3rd level boss. So that just even adds to even more of that whole thing. Okay, now we're to the final landing sequence. Once we have been able to land our plane, then the game will officially be over. So even after you've completed and destroyed everything, remember, you still have to land your plane. So I'm slowly getting into the aircraft carrier. We've already seen this enough. Same exact aircraft carrier every time. Somehow the water looks a lot more brighter than it should for being in, like, at night. I don't know. It just seems like the water is a little bit too bright for this time of day. But at this point, I've pretty much mastered landing my plane. As you can see, I've been actually able to keep most of the, directions off the screen. There we go. Oh, and gotta get up. Come on. There we go. Nothing happening, nothing going on. Okay, you can land now. Thank you very much. The plane slowly comes in, it makes a nice little landing. I get my bonus 10,000 points. Get to see my high score. And there we go with the actual ending for Top Gun on the NES. And yeah. That's it. That's the ending. But are you really shocked? The staff credits will now go ahead and start rolling by, but the best part about this whole thing is the 8-bit Top Gun theme at the beginning, which is awesome to listen to, of course. So yeah, not much of an ending, but hey, look, it's a licensed game on the NES, and not much else is to be expected, really. So of course I really didn't have any high hopes for the ending of this game, but, you know, the credits take a lot longer than it took my character to wave. I wonder if the credits are shorter than that freaking load time it felt like between me saying I was going to the final boss and actually making it to the final boss. I wonder which one's shorter, the credits or that. I have a feeling the credits actually are a little bit longer because they slowly, very slowly move in. So many people apparently worked on this game, and yet it still ends up being a little bit mediocre for an NES title, and especially even mediocre for a licensed movie game standard, especially back then. So I don't know if that's really a good thing that it has a lot of credits, or just the fact that the credits come in so slowly that it just takes forever to get all the way through them. Okay. Yeah. Everyone apparently has a special nickname, in quotes, it seems like, on the team that worked on this game. I mean, like, every one of them. Like, they all have a nickname. You know, for, you know, as well as whatever. Maybe that was part of the whole thing of having, you know, being on the development team for the Top Gun game. Oh, good, we gotta all give ourselves, like, cool airplane pilot names and nicknames. You know? Just... wow, I don't even know what some of them are. Then again, the text is a little bit hard to read as well, so that really doesn't help out things very much.